Today, I'm gonna show you how to paint a marble top on a piece of dated furniture. I'm Leah from Leah Noel Design Co. and I paint a lot of furniture, and I find that these marble tops are just a little bit dated or sometimes they have some damage. So I'm gonna show you today how to prep them. The first thing we're gonna do in prepping this piece for paint is we're gonna take 80 grit sandpaper on my Palm Orbit sander, and we're gonna go ahead and just sand down this top. Now, if there's any like dents on the edges, I can sand them out with 80 grit sandpaper and just kind of make them smooth. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start doing that right now. Now I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna switch to 120 grit sandpaper, and I'm just gonna give the body of this piece a light sanding, a super light sanding. I'm gonna clean it with White Lightning Cleaner. I mix about a tablespoon of this in this bottle with warm water and let it dissolve. And I just keep this in my shop. I'm gonna spray it on. I'm gonna wipe it all down, clean it really, really good. This is gonna remove all the grease and oil and dirt. And then I'm gonna rinse it with clear water. Okay, so our piece is thoroughly cleaned and it is thoroughly rinsed. So I'm just gonna go ahead and let it dry before we move on to our next step. So you can see it's kind of cloudy. It feels smooth to the touch, but I was able to really buff out all the imperfections, even though it is stone, with my sander using 80 grit sandpaper. So the second step I'm gonna do is, since this is a slippery surface, it's not wood, I'm gonna go ahead and use this product from Dixie Belle called Slick Stick. So Slick Stick is made for to help paint bond to glossy and other hard, shiny surfaces, allowing effective painting. So that's what we're gonna use to put on this top. What I like to use for the tops is I like to use these foam rollers. You can pick them up at the hardware store, or you can get them on Amazon, okay? They're 4-inch fine finisher refills is what I get, and I will link them below for you as well. So what I like to do is I just like to kind of dip my thing, a roller in here, and then I keep a plate right here just to kind of like roll it out so it's even. And I'm just gonna go ahead and apply it. And I'm just gonna make sure I get even coverage on my piece. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this dry for about 30 minutes to an hour, and then I'm gonna go ahead and add another coat of primer on here just to make sure it's really, it's got really good grip and everything is covered. So as our Slick Stick is drying, I'm just gonna go ahead and put my roller in a plastic bag. I'm gonna let it dry for about an hour. And then I'm gonna go back over it one more time. The way I'm gonna test to see if it's ready to go is I'm just gonna kind of scratch at it, and I can scratch at it and it's still coming off right now, so I'm gonna let this dry a little more before I paint it, or before I add another coat of Slick Stick. While we're waiting, please like and subscribe to the Leah Noel Design Co. YouTube channel for more tutorials just like this. So we have let this piece dry overnight. You really only need to let your paint dry for a few hours, but I let mine dry overnight. What I'm gonna do with this Slick Stick is I'm gonna do a scratch test. And all that means is I'm gonna kind of scratch over it with my nails like this. And it didn't come off, which means it's really dry, which I knew because it's been a day. And it also means that the Slick Stick is working and it's adhering properly, and it's gonna take paint very, very well. So now I know that it's dry. I'm gonna go ahead and add one more coat of Slick Stick. And then I'm gonna let that dry for several hours. I'm thinking at least 4 before I go ahead and add my top coat. Now, normally I don't let my primers dry for that long, but with Slick Stick, I really like to let my Slick Stick is on. 2 coats is gonna be more than enough coverage. So that step is done, and I'm ready to paint it as I normally would with any other dresser that possibly had a wood top. So our piece is totally painted, and it is time to go ahead and move forward and paint the top. So the Slick Stick has 2 coats and it's completely dry, and I'm just gonna kind of show you how I'm gonna blend the top. Now, if you don't want a blended top, you could just paint over it any way you want. It's ready for paint just like you would with wood. But I'm gonna do a little bit of a blended look, and I thought you guys might like to see. I always start with a wet brush, and as I'm coming into my second piece, I wanna tell you, I'm not using a ton of paint. I will use 2 coats on the top. So I'm first gonna go around my edges, and then I'll start cutting into the center. All right, we're gonna let it dry and come back for the second coat. Hey guys, so our first coat of paint is dry, and we're gonna go ahead and add the last coat here. So we are on the very last step. The paint is dry, and I'm gonna go ahead and seal it with Dixie Belle's Satin Clear Coat. Now, the way I like to apply this is I like to use a sponge. Dixie Belle does have a blue sponge that you can order that is pretty much the same thing as this. It's important to have those fibers really small and not thick so you get a smoother finish. So I'm gonna go ahead and just apply the satin clear top coat, and then I'm gonna let that dry. And once it's dry, I'm gonna go over the top one more time with Gator Hide, and that's just gonna give it a heat and water resistant finish. So I'll show you exactly how I apply it. I'm gonna start from the back, dip my sponge. My sponge is damp, I just sprayed it with my spray mister, and I'm just gonna start in the middle and work my way to my edges. And that chalk paint is just gonna absorb all of the clear satin and give it a nice satin finish that is protected from stains. much it. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing to the rest of the body. And then my piece is done and ready to go.